Okay, hey, we are live here with the Fifth Tile Podcast. I'm Jay Shalansky, and usually I have Mr. Evan Bulris, but he couldn't make it tonight, so lucky us, I pulled in Tim France from the Professional Casual Network.
Bow.
You can find him on such hits as their live stream of Marvel Crisis Protocol from AdeptiCon, which looked like it went really well. I was kind of like watching it from our booth because we had the booth at Adepticon, so I was switching between yours and David's. But yeah, it looked like it went well.
Yeah. Honestly, it was a pretty kind of fantastic ride, fantastic time. Things went very smoothly for us there.
Yeah, that's great. And you guys had I think you had Dallas and Will Schick, right, on the cast. Did you have somebody else that I missed, or was it?
Simone came on as
Oh
well. Yep.
wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm dead to Will Schick. We have a teleprompter that we can draw on,
Yeah.
and he was unaware that we had it. So I let Dallas draw on it, and I let Simone draw on it, but I did not let Schick. So
Oh.
he was rather flustered by that.
Well, that's great. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Will Schick's he's the head of game development. Simone is the head of the studio, AMG, and Dallas, I believe, is the head of the art side, right?
I believe he's the creative design director.
Creative design director. Yeah, I forgot his. I knew it was because I had talked to him. I've talked to him a few times. I knew he like we always talk art. Like that's all we talk and like
Yeah.
sculpting and painting. So I knew he was the head of the art department. I didn't know his exact title, but yeah, that's wonderful, man. Congratulations on all the interviews. That's really good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Good. Well, we are a couple days off of returning back from Adepticon. Tim, like us, is from New York, so Tim drove as well.
Yeah.
The 11 plus hours that it is to drive to Chicago from New York. You guys obviously made it okay. How was your trip and everything? All right.
Yeah, we did. Honestly, the drive out was fantastic. Like, it was probably the quickest time we've had getting to Chicago so far. Things went super smooth. We
Nice.
were caravanning all of that Legion terrain out there.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah. And he's the reason why it was possible for us to have worlds partially because I made cloaked deals in the background to get Nick Bodnar's tables out to Adepticon, and I threw Tim under the van, I guess, to. I was like, I think Tim's kind of close to where Nick's from, so he's driving out. Why don't we have him do it?
I was actually almost late for this because I just dropped the train back off to Nick in Jersey. But Nick was super nice, by the way,
Yeah.
just a super dope dude.
Nick's the man. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love Nick. And his tables are beautiful, so we were very lucky that we got
yeah,
him.
for real.
But yeah, there was we had 68 or 70 tables for Legion. He did like I want to say 29 or 30, I think of those, right? 20, 28 maybe.
Yeah, I think there was 30 crates total, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure, yeah, there was some.
Yeah, so he did 30, I did 8, and then I brought some other terrain, and then Hank who runs Adepticon, they were like printing and painting terrain like madmen for months for yours too, for MCP as
Yeah,
well, right?
their weekend spray teams and stuff are like another level of efficiency as far as getting terrain and stuff done.
Yeah. Yeah, so before we get into Shatterpoint, Tim, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys do over at the PCN?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a lot of different things. We have some actual play podcasts that take place in Pathfinder Second Edition and Warhammer Fourth Edition, a Grim podcast of Perilous Adventure, and the Lost Omens podcast. We also do a kind of live stream podcast similar to this for Marvel Crisis Protocol every Thursday called Wait Did I Roll a Wild?
Hmm.
And Tuesdays we have some live battle reports of Marvel Crisis Protocol as well. Uh, and we do that live from like our local game store. In
Oh,
addition to
nice.
that, we
Yeah.
stream most days, Tuesday through Friday, 3 p.m., usually to 6 or 7, or until our next stream starts, just some Blood Bowl or World of Warcraft or kind of whatever the new hotness is on Twitch.
Yeah, and Tim and I met. We met last Adepticon. You guys were streaming MCP. We were streaming Legion, It was a match made in heaven as we all started getting on each other's streams and laughing. And so, if you had watched our stream from AdeptiCon, one of Tim's co-hosts, Dan, was the drunk Dan, as we called him on our stream. He
The old
came on,
DD.
yeah,
Yeah.
he came on to our stream later. I think it was like Saturday night or something. While we were all having a good time. That was probably my favorite part of that entire Adepticon, was having old drunk Dan on. That was great.
Yeah, Dan very specifically is just kind of one of the most, he's like one of the nicest people you ever meet. So just being able to have him in general is an absolute delight.
Yeah, well, it was funny because he's just so quiet and like chill, and then like you guys got a couple drinks in him, and he was just yep, and I was just like, oh my god. But
Well, and he's a huge Ahsoka Tano fan too.
yeah,
So like giving him the opportunity to just kind of talk about one of his favorite characters is and Kit Fisto as well.
yeah.
Just kind of is a recipe for fun.
Oh man, but yeah. So I highly recommend any of you guys watching this, go check out Tim's stuff. They do some great podcasts. I've been getting into the Lost Omens. Like I started all the way at the beginning.
Oh wow!
So
All right.
so I'm trying. I'm gonna get through it, and so from chat, drunk Dan is a rarity and a treasure. Yeah, he really was. Spitty says hi from Australia. Hey, bud. Met some of your fellow Australian players. That was nice. A lot of international folks, but yeah. So highly recommend Tim's channel and everything. So yeah, just go check that out. Plug. There you go. You're all plugged out.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. 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 So I teased this stream, and I'm glad we're having Tim on. This was kind of serendipitous because Evan couldn't make it. I asked Tim to come on, and it turns out that Tim got Shatterpoint demos as well, which was good because I don't think Evan did because he was busy playing. Legion, but let's talk a little bit. So we'll go into depth of our different experiences, but let's just start at the top. Tim, what was, you're coming from the Marvel Crisis Protocol world. That's kind of where you're sitting. You've played some Legion, but you sit in the Marvel Crisis Protocol. What was your initial gut reaction before we deep dive into what we saw?
For Shatterpoint in
Yeah.
general, so I've been really interested and kind of excited for Shatterpoint for a while. Having very little experience in Legion, I really wanted to be able to dive into a Star Wars game, but
Hmm.
I'll be honest, Legion for me seemed a little intimidating because there's a lot going on, and I'm a terrible painter, and I never get around to painting. So having fewer models in a Star Wars game, I was
Yeah.
like super excited about. And I really like the skirmish style stuff. So, the 3x3, the skirmish for Legion has always interested me, but
Yep.
then they announced Shatterpoint. So I was like, well, okay, getting at the ground floor.
Yeah.
So that's kind of was my perception going into it. And then upon getting that demo, it's kind of everything I wanted and more. I was been incredibly impressed with some of the mechanics and kind of the flow of that game. It's also a lot different than I was expecting. I think
Yeah.
same as a lot of people, they were maybe considering it was just a Star Wars MCP, and it very much is not. That kind of quelled those for me
Yeah.
right out of the gate.
Yeah, and on the opposite side of that, a lot of people, the rumor, what I wouldn't even call it rumor mill, just the sky is falling sect of our community was like, oh, this is going to replace Legion. And I can tell you wholeheartedly, it will not. It will never replace Legion. It's not even close.
Yeah, it's a very different category, kind
Yeah.
of altogether.
Yeah.
I completely agree there.
Yeah, and that was kind of, my initial reaction. One, it was everything they had there was beautiful, beautiful. And I'll just kick over to our screen here, Sharon. So these are some of the pictures that I took, but I was lucky enough to get the demo. They had a very special demo table, just all custom built for Shatterpoint. And then they had what was it, about 3 or 4 regular tables, I think, Tim. I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember. And I was lucky enough to get on the really beautiful table, which I think probably enhanced my experience. And I'm going to say this for Tim because I don't think he can see my share screen right now, but can you
I
see
can.
it?
I did join the
Yeah.
Twitch just so I could
Oh,
see
nice. All right,
somewhat on a
perfect.
delay.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. But yeah, I think someone gosh, what? I think it was on the Shatterpoint or maybe on I shared a picture or shared the link for this to get ready, and someone said it really looks like action figures having a battle on the table. And
Yeah.
I thought that was really like a cool observation that I kind of took with me and was like, it really was like the whole feel was very action figure-y and like almost mixed with like Battlefront a little bit, like the video
Yeah.
game. Yeah. And so it was super interesting. I'll say as we kind of start talking and walking through the our experience, one of the things that was very clear, I think, to anyone who demoed it, was it was very scripted.
Yes.
I know some people's experience varied. The guy who ran our demo was amazing, and he kind of let us go off script. There's some. I'll show you some photos, but I think they were definitely trying to encourage like battles between Ventress and Anakin. That was like one of the things they were really trying to get us to, and we kind of went off script, and I was like, I don't want to go after Anakin. I want to go after the clone troopers. And he was like, I mean, it's your demo, man. You could do whatever. I was like, okay, cool. And so yeah, we were really lucky for, he kind of like, he was kind of chill with us and let us do whatever we want. But yeah, my impressions were the models were beautiful.
Yeah.
I think bringing I love the what AMG's been doing with the Legion models, but bringing them up a scale, oh man, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And like, how do you feel like compared? I think like for me, I'll leave it to you, but for me, it was coming like more into MCP's world as far as models and what's the action poses and stuff.
Yeah, so it did ring somewhat familiar there for me. I felt very comfortable picking up those models as far as the scale, and that's kind of one of those things too that really excites us, and especially some of the more artistic people on our group
Yeah.
that love to paint with a little bit more detail on faces and the like. So I think the scale for them really is kind of a huge selling point because we can customize it and
Mm.
do a lot more. Not that you can't with Legion by any means of the word, but having that slightly bigger size just really kind of helps us and for
Oh,
what we like to do.
I would agree with you. I think that the MCP definitely has way more customization than I mean Legion has some, but not like man, and it's oh gosh, it's both a positive and a negative. For me personally, I've put together some MCP stuff. I'm planning on doing more, and I gotta get Tim to invite me down so I can play MCP against them. But I'm planning on doing more. But like the pieces are very intricate and smaller in MCP, and they seem more posable, and like I can do some more stuff with them. Where Legion can be very like form fit, like okay, gun point this way, that's it. Maybe a little bit
Yeah.
down, maybe a little bit up, but that's kind of where it goes. You
Well, then
know?
it's just really at the end of the day, it's the difference between a skirmish character-driven game and a unit and like battalion game, right? Like
Yeah.
it's you don't want to be forced to put in that amount of detail into 12 units in a
Right,
particular unit.
right. Oh, yeah, yeah. I will say, speaking of that, we're showing a picture, and we've got the droids, Kalani and Asajj in the bottom, and the droids come three to a you can't even get it. Like I was thinking before I saw the three droids, I was like, okay, so I'll just have to paint like one droid, maybe two for like one of these units, and
Right.
they still put three of those friggin' things on one base. So it's
I mean,
like,
they're B ones though.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yes,
Like
they're
they
easy.
really need friends.
Yeah, they do. So real quick from the chat regarding the train, did we get a sense that you could get an extra value from the train if you also played Legion or MCP? I'll let you answer that from the MCP side. Do you feel like you could use this train in MCP?
For MCP, that's actually a really interesting question. I'm sure you could.
Hmm.
Um, though you'd certainly have to maybe modify things a little bit because I mean the big thing with MCP is that all the terrain is destructible. You're going to pick it up and you're going to throw it
Yeah.
or smash people into it, and it's going to slowly leave the battlefield. Um, I think the really interesting and unique thing with the Shatterpoint terrain is that you kind of have this landscape that's all somewhat connected
Yep.
because terrain seems very important and height seems very important in Shatterpoint,
Yep.
and that's not as important in MCP because we're going to pick up that school bus and we're going to throw it at somebody, or we're
Right.
going to throw somebody into it and remove it from the table.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you could, because really, at the end of the day, you can use most terrain for anything. But
Yeah.
it does look like it would go better with Legion,
Yeah,
and I think
for
that's
sure.
something Schick said as well, was that even though the scale's a little bit bigger, you can absolutely use it in both.
Yes. Yeah, I would say it was definitely within the realm of using it for Legion. I'd say some of the panels and stuff, like the picture I'm showing now, for those of you who are watching live, we do this as an audio podcast too, Tim, by the way. But for those of you watching live, yeah, the panels seem a little bit big, but I think from like a height perspective, that yeah, you for sure could use it for Legion. It
Well, in a lot of
seems,
the scatter terrain, right, you can
yeah,
use in pretty much everything,
yeah, yeah,
because who
yeah.
doesn't want more things on the ground,
That's
boxes and
right.
barrels and
Yeah, for sure. The other thing I would say is, and this isn't a negative, and I don't know how to rephrase this in a way that makes it more positive. So I'm just going to say it, and maybe Tim can bail me out of this. Is it just didn't feel like inspired? Like it's just,
mm,
I don't know, walkways and like ladders. Do you know what? And like little like there's, I think there was some like satellite dishes and antennae and stuff. Like yeah. I mean, here's the thing. From I don't know how it is for you guys in Crisis Protocol, but for like Legion, we design boards that are like this is Kashyyyk, this is Endor, this is Hoth. Do you know what I mean? Like everything's
yeah.
very purpose built to match a planet that we want to play on from Legion. And this felt very much. It's beautiful terrain. Like I don't want to take away the skill, the skill and workmanship. It's just I don't know. It's just industrial terrain. So like to me, I was like I mean, I could see using this on a Legion board, but I just don't. It's not inspiring me towards anything
Well, I think
specific.
yeah, so I think like for a launch pack of terrain, right, that comes with the core set, it's going to be something that you're going to be wanting to use
Yeah.
kind of across several different styles of battlefield, and the character focuses on the actual characters instead of the terrain as a whole. Well, I
Yeah.
think that will probably be fleshed out. I think having something that's incredibly versatile, even if it's a little generic, is super important to make a
Yeah.
core set that has that kind of evergreen terrain, right?
Yep.
You can use that on a Coruscant board or really any other kind of side planet that's not Tatooine, and even a little bit on Tatooine. You can really kind of paint that stuff and break it up a little bit to have it fit anything.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair assessment, right? And that
Multi-purpose.
yeah, and I guess maybe I'm just being a little like putting myself in my own little like hole here by saying that. But that was just my like initial reaction. I'm like, it's beautiful. This table's beautiful, but I don't feel like I'm anywhere specific. Which kind of on the Legion side, like that's like our whole like immersion is like a really cool feature of Legion and how we do the boards and everything. And so
Mm,
yeah, so that was I mean I'm not it's just a critique
yeah.
there. How's that? A little critique. Um so someone from chat asked, "What do we think about the objective system?" I felt like I was chasing blinking lights when I did the demo. Um, it's hard to tell. I feel like the demo felt very like sporadic to me because it was a demo. And
Mhm.
because he's trying to teach I had a guy who was teaching ours because he was trying to teach so many different things at once that yes, the objective became more like a blinking light system, but I think it was just the nature of explaining the demo and like trying to get through that objective to like explain how like being within a certain range of objective worked and stuff like that. The thing that I felt why it pulls it out of competitive, like I don't know that this is going to be a highly competitive game. I think MCP is kind of competitive, but it's more fun and like Legion competitive. And I think Shatterpoint more fits into that because of the changing objectives, where it was like
Yeah.
it started with one and then he's like, okay, then the end of the demo was basically the end of that objective, and he's like, okay, and then we draw the next objective and it changes the board, and I was like, whoa, what? Like so that kind of threw me for a loop there for a second.
Yeah, and I think that I don't disagree with that at all. I
Yeah.
don't think that this will be a game as competitive as Legion. Um, and I think maybe just the focus is shifted, right?
Yep.
So because the objectives change around, and assuming you got to see some Jedi kind of flipping and stuff around based on their attack track, I think the theme kind of overall with Shatterpoint is the battlefield state is constantly changing, and after
Mm.
a single unit's activation, you can have a drastically different battle or board state.
Yeah.
So the fact that those objectives kind of change around is you are not, it's, and especially with the comparison to Legion, it is a very different game. It is a different category
Mm.
of miniatures game. So I think that's spot on. That it is not going to be similar
Yeah.
objective wise to Legion.
Yeah, and so basically, I kind of moved on to like a B1 card here. So basically, how it plays is you have dice. When you activate each card, actually, it was hard to wrap my head around because it was going so fast and there was so much information. There's
Yeah.
each unit has like multiple actions that they can perform, or special abilities, let's call them, because you have your actions, move and shoot. But then you also have all these special abilities on top of it. And it just felt like, I don't know, when you did like the Kalani activation, it felt like that one went on forever because he could like move up the
Move up.
B1 units after
Yeah.
you've already moved them up. Then he could do something else, and then he could add more dice. And I was just like, what? Like I was trying to like catch up, and it was a lot. Like I don't know how you felt about that.
Yeah, so actually very specifically, I like that example of the Kalani activation, right? Because yeah, she's moving up B1s, and then you're getting extra attacks or extra dice on their attacks, and there's a lot kind of involved where it may look a little straightforward at first,
Yeah.
or maybe overly simplified. But then you see some Mandalorians ending their activations or starting their activations within range 2 of another
Right.
one, and not certain things are happening, or they're getting expertise or focus. Um, yeah, I think there's a lot more going on than what it initially presents itself as. And I snuck into or was looking over that little wall there in the exploration hall as often as I could. And I did see people kind of go off the rails on a very regular basis. And every time I was watching a game, I was like, oh, well, that didn't happen in my demo.
Right.
Okay. So, like, there certainly was kind of an interaction just to illustrate
Yeah.
this is how an attack works and a defense and movement. And these are some of the actions you can take on your turn. But there was also a lot of symbols that were on these cards that weren't necessarily
Right.
talked about in those demos.
Yeah. Like it was funny when we were demoing it, and like he's like, okay, go ahead and read the card, and we're like reading it, we're like, and then he umbrellas 5 times, like, and you're like, what is that? And he's like, okay, let's talk about hunkering down, and it's like, all right, and so yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of keywords and and iconography that we're gonna have to learn along the way. But I will say, and I'm hoping that this stays true. Now, as games grow, this becomes less and less true just from the nature of growing. But all the information that you need so far, based on the demo, was all on the cards. So I
Mhm.
felt like I liked that, and I liked that about Legion when it first started. Now we've grown past that. There's all these, rules that, but I love having all the info on the cards. So like, if I don't know what Anakin does, or if I don't know what someone does, I could just look at your card and then I know. It's not like I have to have your list and my list memorized. I can always just like walk over, ask you to hand me your card.
And that part is something I really like about it, and usually why I kind of prefer skirmish games because I can look over there. It doesn't seem like there's not like tactics cards or command cards that, or at least that we've seen, that look like they play into it too.
Yeah.
All the information is right there. You need your models and your cards, and that's kind of it. For us, coming from the MCP side, the character cards look somewhat similar. There's certainly some DNA there as far as like passives and active abilities that are kind of laid out that we're familiar with. Um, so there was kind of
Mm.
a nicer learning curve for me anyway, as far as kind of how some of those would work and their costs and kind of associated keywords. But yeah, I do really like that it is, hey, this is what it is. It's right here.
Yeah.
And board state is very simple to see pretty quickly.
Yeah, and so on the card we're seeing now, like you could see under the ranged and melee sections, they have the amount of dice that they roll for both offense and defense. I thought that was really cool. That's nice. The attack. So I'm trying to remember the dice faces. So on attack there's hit, crit, nothing, which was
Expertise.
like expertise, and then nothing, right?
I think so.
Like a broken, it looks like a broken shield, but it means that you missed or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the expertise basically lets you know over, if you look on this card underneath the attack tree, you can see like 1 to 2, and then it shows a hit. That's those expertise things that you rolled. That'll tell how many of those you rolled, tells you what that does. And then for every attack, you're actually moving along the attack tree, and it does different stuff.
And interesting here, the crits work a little bit different than I was expecting as well, where a crit is just an attack hit that cannot be blocked.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, so it's very much like Legion, you know, you can't block, crits get through past shields. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and then that B1 tree that I was just showing, like it kind of just diverges after what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4 hits, 5. So once you get to 5 hits, it starts to diverge. But like you could see Ventress, Kalani's was somewhat similar, where it diverges right away. So you have two different tracks of what you want to do, and then these little symbols mean something. Like there's a double. I think that's like blood drops.
Yeah, those little explosion things are damage.
Yep.
So whatever the difference is between what your opponent blocks and what you get in successes, you go that many like pips down that tree.
Right.
And every one of those little explosions is damage on the board. So which took me a little bit to get used to, because I was like, well, you blocked 2, I rolled 5, so you're going to take 3, and that is not the case. That's
yeah.
It is how much damage down that tree,
down the trail you can go. Yeah. And somebody from chat wrote this, but they said it's very much like Arena Rex, and it is. It's I can tell you, I heard that the AMG folks are fans of Arena Rex, so it doesn't surprise me that they use that attack system, because they like, if they like the game. But yeah, and so you move down the attack, so like Ventress, for instance, the top of her tree, it's just 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage, right? So you're just dealing damage. On the other one, sorry, I got some stupid bot.
I don't remember what the drops were.
So the which one?
Like, so on her bottom tree, if she starts down there instead, it has a damage, and then like it looks like blood drops.
Maybe it's like a persisting wound or something. I don't remember.
I want to say it was like strain, but I can't remember, because there was one special condition that was like, if it's on them, then the first action they take, if they move or attack, they'll take 3 damage, and then it goes away.
Yeah,
and that would at least ring true to bleed for me, but I honestly can't remember what that one was.
Yeah, I don't. So that's the thing, like we're talking about. Like, there's all these symbols, and I honestly I couldn't tell you what all of them did and remember them. But it was cool. They've got the same kind of system as MCP a little bit, with the wounded, where you go your wound threshold. and then like Ventress is 9, and then once you hit that, you go to damaged or whatever. Like they don't die; they just go to like with MCP, right? That's the same thing where you flip the
Ki
card and
Yeah, kinda. So
yeah,
it's like an additional extrapolation of it. So in MCP, if you daze a character, they flip to their injured side. If you would daze them again, they're just KO'd, they're removed.
yep,
So instead of having that kind of static, like you're healthy or injured and or gone, characters have different amount of, I think it's wounds or stamina or something, that number below the health, where that's effectively how many times they can take that health pool of damage. But each time, and this is very different than MCP, they like slow down. So when they have a wound, they
yeah,
don't lose their activation like they do in MCP. They can continue to fight, they just can't score.
right,
So you could like wound somebody, and they still could have their activation and come back and hit you right back
yeah,
really hard.
yeah,
But then stacking up those wounds to injuries, I believe is what it was called, then their force powers cost more, or any of their abilities cost more. They really kind of start to become expensive to
yeah.
continue to operate.
Yeah, I trying to so another interesting piece of the game was these, like for instance, these B1 units and the clone troopers. There's two bases. I was going to say minis, but the B1s have 3 minis. So they're on each base. There's two bases worth of minis for each unit, quote unquote, but there's no cohesion. So they literally can just go in different directions if they want to and go do other stuff. That I thought was weird and interesting.
Yeah, so that one kind of, it is interesting because they still share the actions. So
Yep.
you get the 2 actions per turn. So if one's move, they both move. If one's attack, they both attack.
Yep.
That can be at different targets, but they share a health pool. So when you wound one, you wound both.
Right.
So I think that's incredibly interesting, and I'm really excited to see kind of, especially how more competitive players play that.
Yeah.
Whether they split them up, they can control 2 objectives. I think there's some really unique uh, power. Probably isn't the right word, but there's really some unique capabilities of splitting up some of your secondary and utility or support units, to be kind of spread out over the map.
Yeah. It was, and again, right, it was a quick demo. They were teaching a lot, and I think you pick up a lot as we all have been gaming for a while, so like you're picking it up and you're like, oh yeah, I get that, but there was still so much that like some of I was just like feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah,
Like I was
yeah,
like, oh my god, because like we haven't even talked about half this stuff. Like so like orders are given by cards. So you have a deck of cards of the units that you have on your team, and you shuffle them up, and there's like a Shatterpoint card in there, which we got to the end, but they didn't really explain a whole lot of what that meant. Like,
yeah. So the Shatterpoint card is super cool. So that came
okay.
up really early in our demo,
Hmm.
where when you flip over a card, that's the unit that activates.
Mm-hmm.
Like right then and there, you don't get to plan and choose. It's kind of a wild west at all times.
Right.
You can like pay force to, like, if Anakin comes up, for instance, and you
Right.
don't want to use him, you can like pay some of your resource to save him for later. But the Shatterpoint card is like a wild card. You can activate anyone you want,
Yep.
which
Okay.
means at least one character each. I don't know if it was like mission or round or what, but gets to activate twice. So whether you use that right away or save it for later, or
Yeah,
kind of however
that's
you
right.
choose to do that, is kind of an interesting aspect of
Yeah, I
what
forgot.
character you're going to be activating twice.
Oh god, I forgot about two of the huge aspects of the game until you just mentioned that. So you have force resources, which you can spend to do. There was like some actions that you could do with that, like go twice, or there was some weird. But then you could also hold, like if like he said, I think the demo was the first card that the Republic player drew was Anakin, and he's like, so you could spend, I think it was 2 force. You could spend two of your force resources to hold that activation until you're ready to take it, and then that was crazy and interesting and adds a whole new level of like holding back stuff and like, oh, do I save these resources for some of these extra abilities on my cards, or am I gonna spend it to like hold Anakin back because I need him to like take this objective at the end, or that was
Yeah.
crazy and really didn't get into too much depth as far as like how valuable of a resource it is and scarcity, and like what you're gonna like do you spend it on objectives? Like we didn't even make it that far, so like there's a
Right.
lot to that. Uh,
Well, and it seemed
Man,
like every character uses it differently
yeah,
too. It's not necessarily force sensitive characters, but how the force moves through particular people.
yep,
So like uh Maul, I know, can like take damage instead of spending force, but he doesn't have a high force pool. So like he can kind of do a bunch of really nifty stuff. We didn't get to
right,
see him move too much in our demo, but just reading that card, it was like, oh, okay. So like, because initially I was like, he doesn't have a lot of force in his thing. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
yeah,
But seeing that he had a higher health pool and the fact that he can like just take damage to spend it instead was kind of dope.
yeah. It was wild, and like the other important thing is there's an like an auto leveler, I guess I would call it. But basically, if one of us gets ahead, there's a mechanism that kind of evens things out through that. What was that, force meter or balance?
The struggle tractor.
Struggle tractor. Yeah, that's what it was. Dude, thank God you're on. I would have, like, I don't know. I would have just been calling it all kinds of random stuff. But yeah, the struggle tractor. So that kind of reminded me of the Star Wars deck builder game has a similar, like, force pull system where like you can move the force to the good or the bad or the dark side or the light side, and it's that same thing, but then you're like adding more tokens on either side to like shorten your track so that you can get to it quicker, and I was having trouble following that piece.
Yeah. So once again, so my this is all my. I'm probably wrong on a lot of
Yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah,
but um, the momentum are the were the little black cubes that you kind
yeah,
of added to like make the struggle kind of make I guess it like makes it more tense. Like each side gets closer to it,
yep,
and it's kind of like a bad luck protection as well for one player. Where if you score points on your turn, but you don't move the center token to your side, you get like a momentum. If
yeah,
you KO somebody, you get a momentum. There's like a couple different things, both
right,
um, aggressive and defensive things that kind of like build that towards the center, which is kind of like its own like shot clock a little as well. It like makes
yeah,
finishing that mission um, expedited, I guess would be the word.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny because again, just a demo, and so like that was coming into play, but not really because we were so focused on everything else that I was kind of like, I mean, I think so I had Kalani, and I think I ended up like crushing like the clone troopers, and I ended up getting a bunch of momentum from that, and I was happy that I got the momentum, but I didn't really know why. So you know what I mean? So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I got him. But yeah, and so that was interesting. I have to say a negative. All right, I do have one negative off the top of my head from the demo is the amount of measurement tools was confusing, and like so basically if you guys are looking at the screen now, I'll try to zoom in. But what I have is, so they have like this tool that has two lightsabers, and that's like a one, this is like a range, so you could be range one or range two. One is the short side, two is the long side. Okay, so that's like to see if you're with it. Like we used it a lot for like range between, so when you fight, unlike Legion, you don't have to be in base contact. You just have to be within that range one, which is this short side of this tool, or like to score the objective that we were doing on this particular board. This particular objective, you had to be within range one of the objective token in order to claim it. Like, okay, so you have that, and then there's a range two side, which is the long side of that. Then, if you look and you see this little pointed one here that looks like a scalpel, that's like a force push. So like when you force push somebody or push someone back, you use that measurement tool instead, which
Well, and it's a little so that's a convenience tool. So
okay.
in MCP we use like the same ones. There's actually fewer in
Oh,
Shatterpoint than in
okay.
MCP, but for the range tools we have the same 2, 3, 4, and 5 range,
Yep.
and then we have 3 movement tools.
Okay.
Um, that shove tool is because a lot of the force pushes or like when you hunker, like when you do the defensive action, you get
Yep.
a shove as well. It's angled like that so you can actually like get it into and under
Oh,
terrain.
but it's the same as the one.
It's the
Oh,
same
okay.
size one. But
Oh,
yeah, it's there to be able to so you can angle it and get in different positions
I
and stuff.
got you. So that was that was the confusing part to me.
Yeah.
He made it sound like it was its own measurement tool. And at the time, like I didn't really look at my pictures until just now, and I'm starting to see that it's almost the same size, width as the speed one or the
Yep.
range one or whatever. But like at the time, I was like, "Good God, there's another tool just to do this? That's crazy."
Yeah, so
Um,
this was simplified. They took the number down from MCP and
okay,
simplified it a little bit.
but there's what 4 or 5 range tools,
Hmm.
3 movement tools, plus this special tool, or yeah, 2 movement tool. I don't remember.
Yep. Yeah, so it should be 4 range because the the short side of any one of the range tools is range 1.
Oh, okay.
Um, and then 2 movement and then the kind of utility tool.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I think maybe that was the confusing part to me. Like that wasn't explained. I think if that was explained early on, my earlier statement, I maybe have would have retracted, but because I was just thinking, I'm like, good God, like we lose our tools all the time in Legion. I'm like, and now there's more. Like I was like, how are we gonna keep track of all this? So
Yeah.
like there was just a lot going on. So I probably just misunderstood that clearly, based on what Tim just explained. I definitely misunderstood.
Well, and so yeah, so if you lose that shove tool, like you're fine. It just
Yeah.
becomes, if you're trying to measure a shove under a bunch of girders and under a platform, it just becomes a little bit more difficult.
Right. Ah, that makes more sense. So yeah, so it's just more of a convenience. Okay. That makes a lot more sense than what what I was thinking. Let's
I
see.
don't know if that's the right word for it, but that's what I've been calling it. Is just kind of it's not a necessary tool, but it
Yeah.
is a convenience.
Oh, maybe those 2 drops were wounded or damaged. Because I'm looking at this picture now and I have one of those 2 drops next to Kalani and he got damaged, so he was going to flip his card on the next
Oh, okay.
activation. So maybe that Ventress, she does a wound and she, I don't know, makes you go to your, or no, there was, what the heck was that? Or maybe that was some token where I could only attack. I don't know. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
there's a
so
pin
much.
token
Yeah.
that I think like the clone troopers have where the next move action you make, you don't make it, but then you
Right.
lose the token.
Yeah. Somebody in chat says, Jay, you clearly went to a different demo. Yeah, I guess so. Uh,
Well, and like I said, I was trying to watch as much as I could, so I
right.
saw a couple different things happen in different demos. Because Taylor is actually the one that got the demo,
Oh.
and they just kind of like let me sit in the back and like watch as long as I didn't get in the way.
See, the mistake they made was they let 4 of us demo, like all at the same time, and so we were just like,
Way too many
yeah,
questions, I'm sure.
oh, dude, and we're
Yep.
all friends, so we were all like laughing and joking and like trying to like kill each other's units and like, so it was a good. I'll say this, I had a good time. If that
Yeah.
says anything about the game, right? I was definitely having fun. But I'll just, as a for instance, so on this picture, you could see Asajj is up on this thing. Well, he did not want me to take Asajj up there. Like Anakin is right behind this piece of terrain here. And so he wanted me to go for Anakin and like get into like a duel with Anakin, and I was like, no, I'm gonna go kill this clone trooper up here because they had put a clone trooper up there, and you can actually see if you look past her, just above her, there's damage tokens. That's all the damage I was doing to the clone troopers. Like I think I ended up doing like 10 or 11 damage.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that was fun. Somebody asked, how do you feel about the mix and match of units between factions? Um, I don't know what I don't know. What do you mean? I guess. Do you know what they mean by that, Tim?
Yeah, so within a strike force, it has to be from the same era,
Oh
but you
yeah,
can match Jedi and Sith on the same strike
that's
force or
right.
the same team.
They did say that. I forgot it. So the demo had Separatists versus Republic, and so they did not mix and match. Um, I'm. Uh, I mean, I don't know. I guess if you watch any of the Clone Wars, or sometimes they team up. I don't know. I don't know that I care.
I
It's
think
the
it's
same as MCP, right?
yeah. So in MCP, it's awesome running Thanos with the Guardians of the Galaxy or running Green Goblin
Yeah.
with Spider Friends or whatever. Like it's awesome and it's dope. I get that it doesn't
Yeah.
always make sense canonically, but
Right.
like you said, in Clone Wars and Rebels, we've seen people team up that wouldn't necessarily be on the same side.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's fine. I know that Legion has more specifically been closer to canon and how things work, but I will say they're like now getting into some for instances where like you can take Mando with Empire, like technically yes, he was a bounty hunter. Yes, he worked for Remnant forces in the first couple episodes, but since then he's been a good guy. You know what I mean? You know, like there's all these like technical like, yeah, I guess.
Well,
Um
and there's a lot of keywords on all of those cards.
yeah.
So like you're certainly doing yourself a favor by keeping friends together,
Yeah, yeah,
especially Mandalorians and clone troopers
yeah,
and droids. So like while you can have clones and B1s in the same strike force, all of the droids get additional benefits from being near each other and starting activations near each
yeah.
other. So yeah,
Right.
it's not necessarily it's preventing a limitation from you having fun, but if you're going to play the competitive side anyway, you're probably going to
Yeah.
have have friends stick together.
Yeah, and it was like so I guess too the yeah, like for instance Kalani had if there was droid troopers on the board, he can make them move up and shoot again. And it was just like, I'm sorry. What?
Yeah.
You know, so I think some of the like, yeah, the cohesiveness between units like that is going to make you want to run friends. But if I remember correctly, it's a major character, a minor character, and then the two like trooper type characters, right?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was utility or support, but I think
Yeah.
it's one of those.
So like Asajj would be my main character, Kalani's my support or whatever, and then the droids are whatever utility or
Yeah.
whatever, you know, the not important, the well,
The
not to
the
mix,
nameless mob.
yeah, not to mix stars, but you know the red shirts basically.
Careful.
I don't care. They can come after me all they want, Tim. Can't hurt me. But yeah, let's see some other takeaways. Like, listen, I know I had time for one demo, so we're lucky Tim's here who got to watch a couple. But yeah, I had time for one demo, and they were throwing a lot at me, and that is not how I learn how to play games. So that was very like
Yeah.
stressful, intense for me, and I'm trying to learn everything I can. But
I
yeah, go ahead.
effectively I don't think with the information that we have at this point we can even play a full game. I think we're going to
Right.
continue to
Yeah.
see kind of some more what are they called, the data bank downloads
Yeah.
to get more of the game.
Yeah. I will say the it's definitely going to be a lot more interactive than Legion, probably like a lot more like MCP. I think you're going to get quicker to the battles and things are going to happen a lot quicker. Like there's no choice, especially in the demo objective that we played. Like you guys can see, like legitimately the objectives were like within a move away. So like you know, I could move Kalani from where he is in this picture up, and he was already like on the next because there's like a dash and then a move and then there's like a bunch of different like things that you could do to get you up. So I was already challenging that middle objective, you know, by the time I got there. Same with Ventress, right? Like I moved her. So you move, what was it? If you move towards the ladder and if you're within a speed one of it, you can just go up it and then to another speed one away from it. So like you're almost getting like 2.5 inches from where you started
Yeah.
just to go up a ladder. And so you're just moving really quick. And then I think I moved on top of that and then force pushed. They had a clone trooper up there and then force pushed him off the building. Um, so there was just like, it's very fast, lot going on. Each character, especially the major characters, have a lot of things that they can do. Like
Hmm.
I think Kalani moved, shot, moved the B1s. They moved and shot. Yeah, like it was wild. Like there's just so much going on.
Well, and like speaking of the movement thing too, like it did seem like you move all over the place a lot.
Yeah,
I saw an Anakin activation where he moved up, attacked, and ended on a very different, like from the attack starting to the attack ending. The opponents were in very different places, and he was in a very different place
yeah,
on a point, having pushed people off of it.
yes,
Um, and recognizing some of those symbols on a Tano Jedi No More's card, which came out today on their transmission thing, her Form 5 has like only arrows on one track.
yeah,
So, and I don't know the difference, but there's like the little one that looks like it's like a curved one.
yeah.
I know the dash one where you get to move and where you get to push, but I don't know what that one is. But yeah, it seems like she's going to be flipping all over the place.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean it's super interesting. I didn't get to play, so they had Mandos and Maul on the table. We never got to that. I know. I wonder if my demo was shorter than most because
So,
we were on the special table, maybe.
and our the one that Taylor did, there was four people total, but two of them were like filming the demo,
Yeah.
so they were kind of just letting the demo like kind of play out.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to the end of the first full like scoring and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know if that
No, we drew
varies
the
or not.
Shatterpoint card, and then he was like, "And that's Shatterpoint," and then ended it. I was like, "Okay."
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was like, all right, cool, man. No, he did a great job. He was, listen, there was a line when we got there, like,
Yeah.
we like with people, so they did a line to get a ticket, then you got in, and then you get back in the line at your time, and like, so it was like this whole thing, and it was wild. I thought they did a great job moving people through it, demoing new games, like, it was
And,
fast.
and that makes sense that it was kind of a little pre-canned, right? As far as like,
Yeah,
oh, now you should use this and do this, like because yeah, they were hustling.
yeah.
They were getting a lot of people through that.
But yeah, I mean, from a demo, as far as my takeaways, I don't know that I would replace. I don't know that I would replace Legion with this. I don't know that anybody would replace Legion with this. It
Yeah, I
doesn't.
really don't think it's a replacement for.
No, no, no. If you like Legion, this is a very different game, and so I think you'll still be playing Legion. I could definitely see this potentially as something like that I would bring in addition. Like, oh hey, I got a Legion tournament on Friday. I'll play Shatterpoint on Saturday, and then maybe like MCP on Sunday or something. It never works that way. They're all on the same day. It seems like, but that would be more like
So I agree with that
yeah,
very specifically, especially in like a local game store night where it's like, I don't have time for a game of Legion,
right,
but
yeah,
I'll play some Shatterpoint.
yeah, 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 yeah. That
We
I
did the
could
same thing with like
absolutely
Underworlds,
see. Yeah,
like it's a little quicker. We can get into it a little bit briefer. We
yeah.
don't. There's not as much setup.
It's the
Um,
same as Kill Team. Right, like,
yeah,
oh, I'm not
yeah,
gonna play 40K. I'll just play. You guys want to just play Kill Team?
correct.
Yeah, it's the same idea. Um, somebody from chat asks, in hand, do the models seem like they'll hold up to travel? Yes and no. They felt good, like they felt hardy in my hand. But the problem is with any hard plastic models, like you could see in the picture I'm looking at right now, the lightsabers are still very thin.
That
So
yeah, I
yeah,
completely agree there. The lightsabers, especially, I break models a lot.
yeah,
I am terrified of touching those lightsabers,
yeah.
like very legitimately.
Yeah, I think that as a whole they felt hardy though. The base size
Yeah.
and weight is really nice. Um, the models felt hardy. Yeah, just the things. Anytime there's like pointy things on any hard plastic models, that's when I'm always like worried, you
Yeah.
know. But I would assume they're probably in the same vein as MCP and more MCP than Legion, just because I haven't seen the assembly stuff yet, so I don't know how they come as far as like, you know, MCP could get a little finicky. Like I remember the first time putting together MCP and I lost Iron Man's hand for like 20 minutes and I was like losing my mind because I was like, why is the hand so small? Why would it be like this? What? And I'm just like, why wouldn't you just put it on his arm? I can't deal with this.
I can't
Like,
assemble my own models anymore after an incident with some AOS gore gruntas, and I lost the ears that were like on a headband, and I lost it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm very thankful to have incredibly talented people like Taylor or my wife Lindsay also helps considerably with those tasks. I
Well,
just have big stupid meat fingers that
yeah.
just don't work for that.
That's yeah, me too. Like I have, it's weird. So like I have this thing with my, I've had it since I was little, but my hands shake. My whole family has it. But when I'm doing certain things, like when I'm painting, like I'm an artist, so when I paint or draw, it stops, right? Like it'll stop, and I can focus, and I'm fine. But like if when I'm trying to put together models, my hands are like, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh god, you
How
know,
did the glue only get on my fingers
right?
and none on the model
Yeah,
whatsoever?
yeah.
And somehow my elbow was covered in zip kicker, which I
Oh
didn't
my
even know
god.
I was using.
Yeah, I was talking to Dallas from AMG about like um because they had soft plastic when Legion originally started, and then they moved to hard plastic. And it was like, man, I really miss the soft plastic. I understand that hard plastic is much more detailed and more beautiful, but the soft plastic, I could literally wing my like Luke across the room, and he would be fine. And like his lightsaber would be bent, and then I just straighten it up with a little heat, and off to the races, you know. And so like I do miss that a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. Overall first impressions were. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. My first impression at the thing was like, this is incredibly complicated. I don't know how new players are gonna like. If you're new to gaming, this is
Mhm.
not a great entry point. I felt like that because there's just so much going on, and you're like, action trees and this and the, and so that was my initial reaction. I'm like, geez, there's a lot going on in this game. Like this would be hard. Like if someone saw this as just so and the reason I think like this, I don't know how it is for MCP, but like our audience, a good majority are Star Wars Legion was their first minis game. Or maybe it was X-Wing,
Yeah.
right? They went from X-Wing to Legion, and that's it. And that's all they've played in minis. And Legion's about as much as some people can handle mentally, as far as miniature games go or gaming in general.
Yeah.
And so my initial concern is that there's just a lot going on in this game.
I don't disagree. Because when I just looking at some of the reveals and the transmissions that they've put out, initially I like I said, kind of anticipated this being a simpler game. Um, and then seeing the demo, I was like, oh, like you said, that
Yeah.
this game is an ogre, right? It just has so many layers, and I'm excited for that point. That kind of reinvigorated my interest in it because I do need a little complexity there,
Mm.
but I don't think it's complex either. It's weird. Like, so when I do teaching games of Marvel
Yeah.
Crisis Protocol, I normally do just the models and the character cards and no tactics cards. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we'll add those in at a later point. Um, and I think that might be kind of somewhat of what the demo was,
Right.
where it's like there's obviously more there. There's
Yeah.
obviously more symbols. We don't know what they are. And we haven't seen how the mission or the objective flips after you reach that like
Yeah.
crisis thing in the center. Um, so yeah, I think there'll be more there. But for the most part, the basic mechanics are in fact pretty straightforward. Move and attack.
Yep. That.
And double attack.
Yes.
You can't double move, and that was actually very interesting to me because in
Yeah.
MCP you can attack twice, you can move twice, you can shake, you can do all these things. There are a few more actions. I think you can heal or something like that. I don't really know how that works, but um, it does seem like it's you have a somewhat narrow path,
Yep.
but broad base, high ceiling. I think would be the way to.
Yeah. 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 And I would agree. Like they said you could only move her attack once. each once, but like really with all the actions and like all the other extra stuff, you're actually it's more than that. There's just like a lot going on that like because then once you get down those action trees and like you start like chasing that down. Now you're adding all these other things onto it, and these they're decision trees, right? Like,
Mhm.
okay, I have all these attack points I'm gonna spend to either do damage or to do damage and get like these bonuses or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
And then there's expertise on top of that too. So yeah, it does seem
Yeah,
like there's kind of a lot of systems tacked onto it, and to me, that's super exciting.
yeah,
As long as it's not cumbersome, and thankfully there aren't a bunch of other like tokens and cards and other things that you have to prepare. I don't really like. I like the I don't know if deck building or roster building is how you would say it for MCP, but I like that there's a little bit less prep so I can get into the game
yeah.
quicker, and then all of the other stuff is kind of contained in those basic character cards.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. But like yes, the character cards are easy to read. It looked like the objective cards were easy to read, though the next one that I saw, the next two, there's something going on with like symbols instead of like objective points. Like so that was getting a little, and like, I don't know. I'm a simple man making my way through the galaxy here, and um, I can be convinced to play complex games but but like
Yeah.
for me it's like okay, I need you to like simplify this for me, dog. Like what's my path forward here? um but yeah, it was simple, but it's simply complex is the best way I can explain it, like because
Complexly simple,
yeah.
casually professional. Yeah,
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go. Nice plug. Because everything is visibly there, but there's a lot of it.
Mhm.
And so like I'm worried about like the multiple actions of my characters. I'm worried about the strategy of where I'm going on the board and what I'm doing there and the objectives. I'm worried about the momentum tracker and where that's going and how that's going to shift. I'm also worried about the random draw of my cards and am I going to spend my force points to save it? Like there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And it's definitely going to take a bunch of games to like sort that out and really like understand what all that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I think it's a good start for me. I don't ever see this taking over Legion for me. I love Legion too much.
Yeah.
Um,
I like it as a gateway, right? Like I
yeah.
like it as a gateway for MCP players to play Shatterpoint and then go into Legion, and I
Yeah.
like it in the reverse.
Yeah, and I think it scratches the Star Wars itch, though I will say it felt it felt like Jedi Academy. Remember that game? Oh my god.
No.
Oh, I'm really old.
Was that a mini? Well,
Oh
hold
god,
on.
no, it's a video game, Jedi Academy 2.
Oh.
And it was like you were like Jedi running around like just like it was like Call of Duty but Jedi. And so like you're running around like trying to kill each other. So anyways, it reminded me of that. Like it's which isn't bad, it's just different, right? Like where Legion's very much more strategic and like mass battles and moving an entire army around. This just felt more like a video game. Like, oh, I'm gonna get in here and I'm gonna and I'm gonna swords and guns and I'm gonna kill and move but you're not dead because you're only damaged. It's just like it was intense. It was a lot. It was
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, any other takeaways there, Timmy boy?
Um. Yeah. So, and this is, and I think it's unfair to compare this game
No,
to
just do it.
MCP or to
Hot
Legion,
takes.
right?
Hot takes.
But I was a little disappointed there aren't um I don't know, something like, and I know like literally this whole time I've been like, oh, I'm glad there's no tactics cards, so my roster building is
Yeah.
easier. But I also kind of want there to be tactics cards. But I also need
Yeah.
to understand that this is actually just a very different game, and
Yeah.
it doesn't always need to be there. But
I will say this: they definitely didn't just reskin MCP and make Star Wars MCP. They for sure did not do that.
Correct. Very much so.
Yeah, yeah. And they
Um,
for sure did not just make a skirmish version of Legion. It is neither of those things. It is wholly unique on its own.
and I think maybe that was the thing that no one was really expecting.
Yeah.
Even when they said that this is not Legion and this is also not MCP, and everyone was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever."
come on,
But no,
dude.
it's
Yeah.
very unique.
Yeah. Yeah, and my question would be, and we don't know. But with those two games already existing, I wonder what the market is for this. That's been my only question. Is it's definitely like your side. I think it's all our side piece where
Mhm.
like, you're an MCP main and that's what you'll play, but you'll probably get one army for Shatterpoint and maybe show up to a couple things. I'm a Legion main. I have shelves and shelves and shelves of Legion.
Yep.
But I may have one Shatterpoint army that I bring, and it's probably going to end up the same way MCP is going to end up for me, where I built a board, I painted like 4 figures. Like my whole goal is, Tim, you'll appreciate this. I just want the Avengers, like that's what I want to play. I don't care if
Guess
they're
what? They're
good.
really good.
Oh, okay, great. I don't care if they're good. Just I want to play the MCU Avengers. That's what I want to play,
Hmm.
and I'm very excited about that. So I started like I painted Thor, I painted Iron Man, Hulk. I started, Captain America, Hulk, Black Widow, Hawkeye. Like that's what I want to do,
Yeah.
and I think that's how Shatterpoint will be for me too. I'll just pick like a faction and I'll just paint those up and that's what I'll play, because that's, and it'll be just kind of like, oh yeah, yeah, I got Shatterpoint, you got Shatterpoint, sure, let's put it on the table.
And similar to you, I think Shatterpoint for me is going to fall into a regular
Mm.
rotation as I think I'm going to shift in between which one is my main back and forth, but kind of between these two, especially, and this is probably unfair to say, but around whichever like Disney Plus show I'm currently watching at the time, because then I'm
Yeah.
super into it. I'm like, oh, there's a new season of Bad Batch, so I'm gonna get back into Shatterpoint because I'm hyped for it. And then the new Ant-Man movie or whatever comes out, I'm switching back to MCP. I do think that for at least for me, this game will be very symbiotic with the other game that I'm playing, because
Yeah.
I don't feel that this is going to take over my life and this is going to be I'm not going to be painting
No,
and
I didn't.
assembling forever. I think this is a really nice pickup
Yeah.
game, um, or an off night, or I don't have a bunch of time,
Right.
or like you said, at a convention. This is my Friday event now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Someone else, I think Lucas from our team said, because he did the demo, and he said, when I demoed Legion for the first time, it just touched something inside of me, and I was like, oh, this is my forever game. Like, I love that Vader can just dive into like a unit of rebels and start like tearing them up. You know what I mean? And like, and you have this whole other war going on. And he said when he played this game, he's like, yeah, it's all right. I don't think this is my forever game, but it's pretty good. Like,
Yeah,
and that kind of resonated with me. Where it's like, yeah, it's interesting, but it's as interesting as like I'm gonna play like Arena Rex. I'm gonna play MCP. I'm gonna play Conquest. I have all these games that I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play Kill. I have played Kill Team.
yeah,
I'm gonna play more of that. It's just gonna be one of those. It's just gonna be my side rotation. Like that's I think where it's gonna live. Malifaux, like all these games. These are all games I play,
yeah,
and like, oh yeah, no, that's a cool game, and that's I think, but I think here's the problem. I think they're gonna have with Legion players, and maybe this is just me, but I'm already scratching that Star Wars itch. I'm
yeah,
already painting it. I'm like so like when I played Malifaux, like when I got into Malifaux, the world of Malifaux blew my mind. Like I've built an entire like Gremlin Bayou table, and like I was just like I'm obsessed with the story, right? And like
yeah,
same with Legion. I'm playing Legion. I'm like, oh my god, Star Wars, and I'm obsessed with building tables, like and the hobby, and like, but
hmm
getting immersed into that. But I'm already in it for Star Wars, so this is just kind of like, oh yeah. I mean, I guess I can play this.
For me, I dive into a property really hard. So
Yeah.
like I was a huge Blizzard fanboy for a long time, and when I was tired of WoW, but I still wanted a little bit of WoW, I'd play Hearthstone or I'd
Oh
play
yeah,
Heroes of
yeah,
the
yeah.
Storm. So like This is super symbiotic for me. Like I
Okay.
said, it's going to work for me very well. But I'm also probably in a minority there where I'm like, yeah, I want to take a break from this for a little bit, or maybe I just got back from a really competitive event and I need to cool off.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm gonna play a bunch of Shatterpoint to kind of to scratch that skirmish itch, and also because I'm not playing another Star Wars game currently,
Yeah.
and I would like to. I did just pick up the
Well, Andy's gone, folks. Well, that's it from Tim. Uh, I don't know what to do. Tim is gone. Oh God. He picked up. We don't know what he picked up. What did he pick up? Oh my God.
but now. Am I
Okay.
back?
Hold on. There you are. Yeah, you're back. Oh my
All
God.
right, cool.
You got. I just got.
I
And I was like, "What? What did you get? Tell us."
obviously I had said too much and I
Oh
was
my
being
God.
taken out. Um, I just picked up the Shadow Collective box, I think is what
Oh,
it's called.
yeah, nice. Yeah.
Um, so I am slowly starting to assemble some Legion stuff.
Oh, good. I wonder. It's it's funny because Shatterpoint's coming out, and now I was looking at all the MCP tables and like watching the games from my. Well, now I want to play MCP. So it's funny that Shatterpoint's coming out, and I'm like digging out all my MCP stuff, and I was gonna have a side conversation with you about coming down so that you guys could help me get into MCP a little harder.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it is. So maybe it's the same thing that's happening to me is happening to you. It's like, well, I want Shatterpoint, but
Yeah,
it's not out yet. So I guess I'll play Legion,
yeah,
or I
yeah,
guess I'll play MCP.
yeah.
But I
Maybe,
do.
maybe I don't know. But I'm kind of excited about MCP right now. So that's
But hey, I think I badgered Evan.
yeah.
Next month we're doing a LVO qualifier at the art store in Syracuse for
Oh,
MCP.
next month?
Yeah, April
Oh,
15th.
I might
So I
come.
mean, if you're around,
I mean,
might
it's
be
my
a.
hometown. I should come.
I
Yeah,
figured I couldn't make it easier for you.
I gotta learn how to play. So did I tell you how this happened? So COVID, right? We all know about that. We all know about COVID.
I've heard of it.
We all know about this. Uh, so COVID hit, and Evan was like, "Hey, we should get into MCP." I was like, "Done and done, my boy." And I like bought a ton of stuff. I built an entire New York City table, like hand built it, and was like all ready to go. And then, yeah, we never played. Not one game. We never played one game. I spent so much time on this freaking table, and it's beautiful, and we never played a darn game.
I will say that's been Warcry for me. That's been AOS.
Yeah.
That's been Warhammer Fantasy Battles. That's been Necromunda Kill Team and the M1 that's like Kill Team for Fantasy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, shoot. I forgot the name, too. I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think Malifo's like that. Like, I've got Malifaux. I'm like painting him over here. I built this entire beautiful swamp table, and yeah, we're probably never gonna play because Evan's the one who has it, and no one else has it, and so it
But
is how it is.
that's why you create a show like the Fifth Tile,
Yeah,
so you're forced to play all these games that
you
have
would
been.
think. You would
Mhm.
think it would force you to play the games, but really, I just read the boxes and then talk shit about it on the podcast.
Well, you also need a spot for that.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
should
Oh,
be a
I mean, I've
decompression
watched a
show.
couple videos about this. I'm an expert now. Here we go. I was half paying attention to a demo of Shatterpoint. Let's talk about it. Here we go. Oh my gosh. But yeah. All right. I think we did it. I think we did an hour and
Yeah.
some change. I think we talked about Shatterpoint.
Hmm.
We just achieved my two goals for this cast. So done and done.
We did it. And
Yeah. Go ahead.
I felt bad too. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be up for this because I don't have like a rockin' cowboy hat. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah, and you're not a raccoon, so.
that's true.
Okay, so let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so professionalcasual.com is the easiest place to find kind of all of our podcasts. There's a lot of them.
Yep.
And over at the Twitch, twitch.tv/professional casual network, we do a hobby hangout Mondays, battle reports Tuesdays, and then a live podcast Thursdays, and then all sorts of other games throughout the week, Tuesday through Friday.
Yeah, they've got a ridiculous schedule. They put out a ton of amazing
aggressive.
content. Yeah, you guys are all super cool. I love everybody on your team. So you guys are doing an amazing job.
Thank you,
Amazing
man.
job. So yeah, so please go check out their stuff. Yeah, thanks for listening, and we